Hey everybody, it's James here from NeuralNet Games, and today we're talking about the first expansion for Gloomhaven, Forgotten Circles, and whether or not it's worth it for you. And this is not very straightforward. This is a very divisive expansion. A lot of people don't like it, and I think it all comes down to expectation, but we'll get to that. It has a much lower rating on Board Game Geek than original Gloomhaven. But first, let's talk about what Forgotten Circles is. So, it's an expansion that has one new class. It has 21 new scenarios, one of which is a solo scenario for the Diviner. It has one new condition, Regenerate. It has a new ability, Teleport. It has 20 items. It has 2 sealed envelopes. It has 31 road, city, and rift events. Rifts are one of the Diviner's main abilities, and so there's events related to that. So why is this expansion so controversial? Well, it comes down to people's expectations. It's so much different than Gloomhaven. It's a completely different experience. There were a lot of experimental things done. And so let's get started. Let's talk through, what makes the expansion great, what makes it terrible, and I'm going to help you make a great decision as to whether or not this expansion is for you or it's not for you. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, let's talk about the difficulty first. This expansion was created with the intent of it being end game type of content. For anyone who plays video games, you know about the end game and grindy kind of games where you work really hard to get good gear and then you go and you use that gear to tackle really hard stuff. The problem is a lot of people didn't understand that. They thought it was more of a continuation of original Gloomhaven. So you're a Gloomhaven star, you're like, oh, I got this, +2 difficulty all the time, etc., etc. And you go into Forgotten Circles and you get smacked down because it's very hard. There's a ton of different reasons why, but essentially the difficulty is greatly inflated versus regular Gloomhaven. I'm going to talk about all the different factors that kind of influence, the difficulty throughout the rest of this video, but just know this. If you are not optimized properly, if you're not really paying attention to your party compositions, if you're not looking at your cards, your hands of cards before every scenario going, what is going on in this scenario and how am I going to play my class most effectively, then you're going to have trouble. And that goes double for whoever's playing the Diviner. So one person, they are playing the Diviner and they've really got to be dialed in as to how the Diviner works and what cards they're going to play in what scenarios. So, easy, this is not. The scenarios in Forgotten Circles differ drastically from original Gloomhaven in a couple ways. First is the intro, the flavor text, etc., and I'll talk more about the story later, but there's a lot more text and there are drastically more special rules, conditions, things to keep track of compared to original Gloomhaven. Original Gloom had some of that stuff, but Forgotten Circles just takes that to a completely new level. It rockets right through the stratosphere, out into space. Yeah, there's a lot more to keep track of. And the second part of that is that, there is more mystery in Forgotten Circles compared to original Gloomhaven. So what they did was they tried something new in Forgotten Circles. The scenarios, they have hidden information. So in original Gloomhaven, you would just load up, the entire scenario, 3, 4 rooms, whatever it is, all in one shot. So that was more setup time in the beginning. For Forgotten Circles, you only load up the first room, and then once you go through a door, you have to flip to another page to actually load up that room. So it's great. I like it. Personally, for me, it's good because I like the mystery. I'm willing to accept a little bit more fiddliness for that mystery, but it is far more fiddly because you've got to stop every room and go to another page. And also, when all these special conditions are on the first page and they're very, complex, etc., and you're on another page, you're flipping back and forth a lot. So what I would recommend is that each person who's playing read the special rules so you can catch each other's mistakes, because I guarantee if just one person reads it, they're going to forget a bunch of, the special conditions or rules or whatever, and things are going to happen because of that. So yeah, have everybody read it so that you don't have to flip back and forth quite as much. Before we get to talking about the Diviner, I just wanted to let you know I've got a Patreon. I need your support. I'm a small channel. So if you're liking the content and that's interesting to you, I'm going to put a link down in the pinned comment. Some of the Patreon benefits are, play games with me on Tabletop Simulator, exclusive access to live raw footage of me playing games, campaign games, see my strategies, my tips, stuff like that, raw and unedited. Minimal swearing most of the time. And then also, exclusive access to videos, early access, stuff like that. Yeah, link down in the pinned comment. Also, I'll have a link in the description to Forgotten Circles, the second edition on Amazon. So if you want to support the channel, you can click on that link first before you buy it, and I'll get paid a small commission. Okay, let's talk about the Diviner. So, Forgotten Circles differs a bit in that it's a story focused around a certain class, and that class is the Diviner. And so you've got to take the Diviner into every scenario. And the Diviner is a bit of a polarizing class. She's actually really quite powerful, especially since she got changed from first to second edition. She got a lot better. But she's pretty polarizing because she's got a really high skill floor. And so a lot of people are like, the Diviner sucks. The Diviner does not suck. She's ranked quite highly. I've got a tier list. Go into the video description and you can see a link to my actual rankings of every single class. But she's pretty powerful, but you got to know how to use her. And, even if you're in a 2-player party, you're going to have to take her with you. So really focus on understanding how she works and all the different scrying stuff and the riff stuff. And if you do that, you're going to be fine. The story in Forgotten Circles, in my opinion, is a huge improvement over the disjointed story in Gloomhaven. However, there's a lot of it. It's like a novel. There's a lot to read. So if you're in one of those impatient groups, if you're one of those people in a game like Fallout where you're just hitting the A button as fast as you can to get through all the dialogue screens, this is probably not going to be up your alley. You can skip it, but there's a lot to skip. So just bear that in mind. For those of us who like a good narrative, though, this is a step up. I mean, I enjoyed the story. It's much more cohesive and more focused and feels a little bit more real because, you've got the Diviner right in there and the story is tied to the Diviner. So I liked it, but maybe not for everyone. So the bottom line, is Forgotten Circles worth it? I mean, if you're the kind of person that likes difficult content, enjoys a really deep narrative story, and is always looking to push hard, theory craft builds and is willing to spend the time to optimize your party and talk it out with your friends as to, how are we going to approach this? What strategy are we going to use, etc. If you're just a casual group of guys and you're chugging back some beers and stuff like that and you don't strategize a lot, you're probably going to be really frustrated by this, and I would not recommend you buy it. This is definitely endgame content. It's drastically harder than original Gloomhaven, and you're going to have your game face on to get through it without, being really upset and wanting to, punch a wall or something because you keep dying and just, getting annihilated because it's so hard. So bear that in mind. I like it. I think it's worth it. I like to play games on hard. If you don't, that's totally cool. I get it. I'm an adult. I have a life. Sometimes playing on hard is actually really annoying. So just, factor all that in. Right now, I think it's like 40 or 50 bucks. It's actually more expensive than it used to be, but I still think it's worth it, as long as you're prepared for it. And that's one of the reasons why there was so much outcry, or there was so many, dissenting opinions on Forgotten Circles, is that people just didn't expect it to smack them in the face like it did. Marcel Quartechka, he worked hard on it. I appreciate that hard work, but it's not for everyone. It is definitely not for everyone. It isn't I don't want to say it's an acquired taste, but it's just one of those things where it's for some people and it is definitely not for other people. So just because you loved Gloomhaven does not mean you will automatically love Forgotten Circles. So hopefully that helped you. If it did, please consider dropping me a like. And I just want to say thanks for watching the video, and a special thank you to all my subscribers, and a double special thank you to all of my patrons.